you remember last week, I had that young drummer from California, Vinny Colaiuta, on my show. And I offered to send him a foot pedal for his birthday. Well, it arrived. He loves it. You might have seen he posted something on Facebook about it. And he sent me a video last night of him unboxing it and him trying it out. So I'll post that up later on. But Vinny loves his Gretsch floating action pedal, which I'm glad he does, and happy to make that young man's dreams come true. A reminder, if you don't already have it marked in your calendar, next Saturday, February the 12th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, my guest will be the great Ainsley Dunbar. So if you haven't watched my show in a while, find your way back next Saturday. See what I did there? Find Your Way Back. Big hit song that Ainsley played on. Find your way back to see Ainsley Dunbar next Saturday, February 12th, 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Live from My Drum Room. I think that's about all the housekeeping I have at the moment. So, without any further ado, please welcome my guests today, episode 72, Live from My Drum Room, Cathy Rich and Gregg Potter.
Yes. There we go.
Well, there they are.
Here we are.
You don't realize how busy we are. We're doing a lot of stuff.
We're doing many things.
I know.
We multitask a lot.
Yes.
And guys,
running on operation.
I so appreciate you making time for a little guy like me. And you, Cathy,
For you,
Gregg, I am a little guy.
And so is he.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I love him.
I think you're taller than him.
Yeah, you haven't seen my Barbie clothes collection. Well, now I moved up like the G.I. Joe because I'm dressing like a little tougher.
Soldier.
Yeah, a lot of the pink clothes have been put in the closet.
Hi, Johnny.
Well, hi, Cathy.
It's so great to see you.
Great to see you too. I know. It's been a couple of NAMM shows, and you guys look fantastic. I'm glad you're keeping warm. Thank you.
Yes, as always. You never change, which really is annoying.
Well, you don't either. But thank you very much. But
yes,
we've known each other
in the 80 years that I've known you. You have not changed at all.
She's quite complimentary. I don't know if you're going to pick up.
I have. It feels like I've known him my entire life.
I've known him for quite a while also.
I know that.
I've known him. I'm 27 now. I met him when I was in high school.
Okay.
I remember that. And you were an up and coming budding drummer back then, and I recognized that in you.
I recognize that.
I remember many a rejection letter signed by Mr. John DeCrisp. Oh, I'm sorry, Gregg. Now's not the time. No, now's not the time.
I think I said, if I remember correctly, maybe someday if you play with the Buddy Rich Big Band, maybe you'll have a shot.
That's exactly what you said. But you actually had like an assistant say it to me because you're like, please,
I'm too busy for him.
I can't talk to him anymore.
Well, I was probably on the phone with Cathy discussing important business.
Important business, like memorial concerts and things that we all did together.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is true.
Wow.
That is true. You didn't need me.
I started thinking about all these incredible memories of those times we had together, ahead of this. And I started thinking about your dad, which we all do. We think about your dad all the time. And I know there's some significance to this year. It's 35 years since we lost him. I hadn't met you yet. I was at DW when your dad passed away, but I knew Freddie Gruber. And I remember the day, not to bring this up, but I remember the day your dad passed away and Freddie calling Don Lombardi, and I happened to get the phone, and Freddie was in tears. And so it's one of those, like, where were you when a certain event happened, and I'll always remember that Freddie, just breaking down on the phone. And
it was a very strange time, heavy times. And I can't believe that it's as long as it's been. It seems, again, when you're going through your life, there's no way that it's 35 years ago. I mean, I just can't believe it.
I can't either.
It goes by so fast.
Right. I know. My son was born exactly 1 month to the day later, May 2nd, 1987. So I sort of, in a weird way, I know I associate those two things, like your dad leaving and my son arriving, and I don't know, but
Crazy, huh?
yeah.
And my birthday's May 11th, so I'm right behind him.
That's right. And
Yes.
my younger brother's birthday is also May 11th, which
isn't that crazy? All the great people are Taurians.
they are. Gregg, when's your birthday?
I happen to share a birthday. I share birthdays with Bill Clinton, John Stamos, and Ian Gillan, the lead singer from Deep Purple.
There you go.
Wow.
Okay, wait a second. And that other drummer that I'm afraid to say because we'll get sued.
Who?
Ginger Baker.
Oh, Ginger.
You know, I'm
telling you,
either I'll get beat up by somebody or I'll get sued.
Ginger was great. I mean, he hated everybody. Somehow he really liked me. I don't know why. We got along perfectly. Well,
yeah, I'm sure he loved your dad, and like,
I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
I don't. Well,
they had some weird rivalry from early on when Ginger was like, at the height of things with Cream and all that. Somebody suggested that they battle each other.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Right.
Remember
yes,
that?
Of course. Yes.
So, I mean, really?
Yeah.
No.
I know. What were people? I know.
So in the press, it was going back and forth. So whatever.
Yeah. I had a great relationship with Ginger, rest his soul, but I'd put my money on your dad any day in the battle. I'm just sorry.
I think that's probably Buddy was like, what am I battling?
Yeah. I'd put him on any day, anybody, any generation, anywhere.
No, it's not going to happen.
Ginger may have had a tough time.
Yeah. And if anybody ever started to like, play well, all Buddy had to do was get off the drums and scare the shit out of him with like, a judo, like with a karate stance, and just like forget
Contrary to popular belief, he wasn't really that guy, although he could be. He definitely had a hair trigger temper.
Yeah.
I'm the sweetest.
I met your dad a handful of times, and he was so nice to me as a young drummer, just like he was, I tell that story all the time. And I know you hear these stories, but he was just so like, I remember the one time in particular, I was with Armin Zildjian and Lenny DiMuzio. I was working in a music store. Yeah. And I was like 21 years old. I worked at this drum shop, and they were nice enough to let me sit at their table during the show. And then afterward, they brought me out to the bus. And I remember Buddy was sitting on like a drum case,
right,
and with his Yankees jacket on. And he was so nice to me, and he shook my hand. He said, "Nice to meet you." And it was like,
I mean, you came in there with two of his dearest friends, so of course he was going to be gracious to you.
Yeah,
Wow. He loved Armin and he loved Lenny. I mean, those were the days.
Absolutely, I know.
Those were the greatest days. I mean, we miss those guys so much.
I know. Me too. I know. I think about that. I think I've been thinking about this a lot since we decided to do this today. How lucky all of us were, like, from a certain generation to like grow up at a time when Buddy, you could see him on TV, you could see him performing live.
Yeah.
He lives on, obviously, thanks to all the videos, but it's to me, it's like there was nothing like seeing him, in concert with his band.
It was life-changing. I mean, I still, to this day, people write to me every day, on Facebook, on Instagram. I mean, people are, with social media, there are pros and cons with social media.
Right.
But on the good side, I get to hear from all the fans, and, everyone remembers, where they were when they met him, where they were when they saw him. And, it was life-changing. Oh, I got his stick and he let me talk to him, and he went on the bus and we did this. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah, I've got to see him a few times. I met him. They weren't quite as pleasant experiences, quite like Cathy, or now you're talking about. You get introduced by some, like the people in the industry. I got introduced and he threw me off the bus. And then Cathy tells me the thing my dad hated was being introduced to someone by the people in the industry.
No. If people in the industry said, "Oh, I want you to meet so and so. He's our next up and coming yada yada yada," don't do that.
I had one. I didn't know that. I thought that was how you got it. It was the people from a drum company, and I finally got to meet Buddy because I met him when I was very young. That story.
That's another story.
Yeah, that's a whole other story. But again, you meet someone in a restroom.
Oh well.
Yeah, unless it's like on a prearranged Tinder date or something or whatever. That doesn't. Well, I don't think Tinder was available. No. And my dad took me in the bathroom. So right there, that's a lawsuit.
That's a problem.
That's child services, and that's a
felony.
Yeah, that's there are more fish in the sea dating website or something. But so that didn't go good. But then I met him like later, like I was like 20 years old, and
that didn't go well.
And that didn't go well either. So I mean, when I hear these stories of like, Buddy was so nice, and that,
you're getting back at him now, though.
Oh, if that man only knew what was waiting, not only from that men's room that I met him
40 years from now.
But you wait till you see what's going to. And her mother loved me. That's
true.
The woman, or that's the person you were supposed to be scared of.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. People
Marie
say Buddy was a pussycat compared to Marie, and all I did was fixed her Venetian blinds or something.
Right. Oh, that was it.
I just went to the house and fixed something.
That was in.
She loved me. She used to actually call Cathy. When are you bringing? The only thing she never
called him Brad.
She called me Brad. She never called me by my name. It was like
she's like, he looks like a Brad.
And I thought it was Brad Pitt. She's like,
Cathy?
oh God, no.
What?
Did she used to like call him Brad and then like wink at you like?
No, she was serious.
She just seriously called me Brad. And
he looks like Brad, so I'm calling him Brad. And then it kind of graduated to Brad Gregg.
But I'm saying,
but I could see the Brad in him though. Now that you say that,
you can.
I think it's
with the without the glasses. Do I look like a
Brad?
Clint?
Oh, now you look more like a Joe. I don't know, maybe or Tom.
A Joe.
Which one makes me look tougher?
The glasses.
Glasses
make you look tough. Yeah,
they make you look tough.
You're good. You're good.
Either way, so I'm jealous when I hear these stories of Buddy being nice like that, like being like really wanting to meet you. Because even if you see this picture that's been around, like of me meeting Buddy, you could see he's looking over me, and like he wouldn't even eyeball me. You know, he wouldn't even go like nice. Like,
and then he said, "Nice hair."
Oh yeah, he looked at when he did look at me. You know, like he shaking my hand. You could see in the picture. He goes, "Nice hair, kid," and looked over my shoulder.
Is that the best?
Actually, while we were. Yeah,
I know.
But so that's like, it's kind of,
but that would be typical Buddy. That's exactly what he would say.
Yeah.
Well, but not typical Buddy to Potter. I was kind of hoping it would be different. Like, oh my God, I've been waiting to meet you.
Yeah.
Oh wow, well, when you walk.
No. I can tell you, when I met him, he didn't say anything like that. He wasn't happy to meet me. He met me.
He met me.
And I was happy to just shake his hand
to be there.
No, but Cathy is
But he came with Armand and Lenny, and that's a whole different.
But I was with the president and vice president of a drum company.
Slingerland?
And actually, don't bring up names. See, this is why like a door gets shut in my face basically every 4 hours. You won't believe it. I just got a call from who? We're not doing that. What do you mean? Universal Studios, they're going to make a big shark movie with us.
Okay.
No, I don't like fish.
I don't like fish.
Okay, so Buddy was looking for drum heads at this gig. It was a Sunday afternoon, so the drum company guys were there, and he's like, "Hey, I need some snare drum heads, man. You got snare drum?" And so he's talking to the drum company, and they're like, "Buddy, first of all, we're not even near the factory. Because it was in Chicago. Slingerland was up in Niles. It's a suburb. Blah, whatever." He's like, "Yeah, but I really
was looking for heads.
I need drum heads, man. I need some snare drum heads, man. I need some." So he really was. That was his focus, not meeting me.
Sure.
And if the drum companies there are people from a drum company, I mean, this would have been in the 1940s. When did I meet?
Yes, right around there. 42, I believe it was.
In the 70s, probably.
No, 80s.
Right?
It was 80, 84.
Oh, okay.
Or, 83, 84. I'm saying so Slingerland was still, they were still there. And I guess someone could have driven back to Niles, but or nowadays you probably go to a drum shop or something. Whatever.
There you go.
So that was my story. So tell more wonderful stories about the great Buddy Rich, because I'll just sit here and think about it. Because I did get to see him play though.
I can tell you the first time, and I'm pretty sure I told you this story, Cathy, and you're really here to tell the stories, but I'm going to tell the first time I met him. I went to see him. I was about 18 with a friend of mine who was a huge Buddy. I mean, I knew this guy since like the 7th grade. He later went on to study with Alan Dawson, was a really, really fine drummer. Fred Klein, his name is, and he's still around. And but anyway, he called me like one afternoon and said, "Buddy's playing tonight at a high school." And better than anybody, like on those Monday nights between his 6-night engagement, he'd fill it with a one-nighter at a high school or something, right? So my friend Fred heard about this and said he's playing at Arlington High School in Massachusetts, and let's go. And I said, okay, yeah, let's go. And we got the tickets at the door, go in there, got these amazing seats right up front in the auditorium, and it was unbelievable. And we're just like, it's a Monday night, we're watching Buddy with the band, and it's just unbelievable for two kids in between sets. And this guy, Fred, is a really shy guy. And he said to me, let's go back and see if we can meet Buddy. And I'm like, what? Yeah. I'm like, what? Are you crazy? Like, we can't do that. So we walk through, you know, like in an old auditorium, there's like there's always like those entrance ways.
Yes.
We walk back and we go into this room, and there's Buddy, there's your dad with Armand and Lenny, of course, who I didn't know. And my friend Fred said to me, that's Armand Zildjian and that's Lenny DiMuzio. And I'm like, oh,
foreshadowing.
Yeah, foreshadowing. I'm like, this is about 1979, like 10 years before I would have gone to work there. So we go in and we both had our programs, and I asked Buddy to sign mine, and he did. And I said, Buddy, could you sign my program? He said, sure. He signs it, hands it back to me. And my friend, again, who I'll preface by saying he's a pretty reserved guy, Fred Klein, he said, Buddy, you know, can you sign mine? He signs it. And he said, can you recommend any books on syncopation? And Buddy said, and Buddy's answer was, I remember, like, this is 40 something years ago. He said, syncopation's up to you. And I thought, and now that I think about it, what a cool answer. Like, that's
what a great answer.
Great answer. Like, syncopation's up to you, right? To you. And that was like, that should have been it right there. That should have been like, he's just giving you the greatest advice in the world. But my friend Fred had to say, yeah, I know, but can you recommend any books like Ted Reed and your dad went, syncopation's up to you. And I'm like, let's get out of here. Come on. Before he takes our programs away. So anyway, we left, and it was one of those
funny.
Yeah. And it wasn't a bad, it was just a funny, like, I look at it now and it was like what a moment. He must have got that.
But it's
so
true
much.
Because people get like, when you're meeting someone that you're really kind of in awe of, I mean, we've all had those moments, and you kind of get tongue-tied and weird stuff comes out, and you just don't leave it alone. You just kind of
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Well, my friend, I think he looked at it like, this is my shot. I
better get it all in.
Out of all this, I've got to have someone tell me that the Ted Reed syncopation book is the one. Oh my God, that separates me from, I guess, in 1979. So,
and Buddy wouldn't know one book from another at that point, except Snare Drum Rudiments. That would have been it, right?
Yeah.
Use that book.
Yeah, use that. But
that's great. Fun story.
But it's like meeting the great and powerful Oz.
Yes.
No, that's exactly what it reminded me of.
That's what it is.
You know what I mean? Like, you
pay no attention.
Yeah, but I mean, it's really him, because I do know exactly what you're saying. Yeah. Because nowadays you don't get that. I mean, you meet someone, you've already, by the time you meet someone, quote unquote, famous now, you've already read about him on social media. You know that he has a
what he likes for breakfast,
urinary tract infection,
how many marriages they've had,
it's not
where
like
the ex-wife lives.
Yes. So now, but when you met Buddy, and especially if you were a drummer, it was like you were. I remember, like, I shook his hand. I told Cathy about this. And so what? His hands were soft.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm thinking, because back in the day, if you didn't study all those books or anything, you would hold the drumsticks. You had calluses. You were like Carmen Appice. It was great, wonderful. But I mean, you shake that guy's hand, you're like, wow,
you're feeling it.
His hands are like, I'm
right.
Buddy, and I would tell Cathy, and she's like, well, yeah, and he smelled nice too. I said, well, I wasn't that, I didn't smell him.
That close to him.
Well, because I do. I wear his cologne around the house. I wear his robes. I wear his clothes around the house. I'll do anything to just try to make this thing work. You know what I mean? Like, just anything. My God, do you notice any difference? Yes, you look like an idiot in a large robe. Okay, you smell like Axe and my father's cologne. You know what I mean? It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
But I try all these things, but it is like,
it doesn't work.
It was just amazing to meet him, and
it's worth a try.
Oh,
it's worth
absolutely.
A try. Yeah, always. No, I know. Yeah, it's amazing. I think about, like, all the times on the Tonight Show, and I was going to ask you just generally, like, what was it like growing up and knowing who your dad was? I mean, you had to know early on, like, the impact that he had. He was so larger than life. Like, was it like, I don't know.
I mean, again, people do ask me that question a lot. And it wasn't probably until I was a little older, when I was a little kid, I mean, that's your life.
Yeah.
Jerry Lewis coming over and, having all these celebrities coming to the house, it was just normal life to me.
Yeah.
But then I think once I got in like junior high and high school, people made it different for me because people reacted differently. So, he was on TV all the time and he was doing, he was touring all the time. So that's when I kind of went, oh, okay. So my life is probably a little different than most people. When friends would come over, he would have played all night. So he didn't get home until 4 in the morning. So he was still sleeping when I got home from school. So if friends were coming over, you'd be like, and they're like, your dad's sleeping? It's 3 o'clock. Well, yeah, he worked until 4 a.m. Right?
Yeah, and then
So,
it's like,
in that
okay,
regard,
my dad's a drummer, and then the kids would go, "What does he think he's Buddy Rich?" No, he is Buddy Rich. I mean,
so yeah, in that regard, yes, I think other people make you more conscious of it than you do. Because I was never one. I was never boastful or I just wasn't like that. I was kind of a shy kid, and so I was never. Oh, you know who I am? I was never like that.
Yeah.
So it was other people that kind of made you think about it in that way.
I got you. By the way, there's someone watching named Nick Rich who said, "Do you ever age, man? So good to see you." So I just want to give a big shout out to Nick. Yeah, thank you.
He said the same thing I said to you. Never age.
Thank you. And,
that's awesome.
And I'll say it again, neither do you.
Thank
or
you.
The young fella next to you.
Or this youngster. Yes.
That youngster.
I met Buddy Rich once. And he told me to take a hike.
I have to tell, I'm going to tell another, I made a note of this.
Do.
A story that, and again, I think I've told you all this stuff, Cathy, and you're probably like,
yes.
Okay, you just get
No, it's fun.
But I remember, the great drummer Colin Bailey.
Yes.
And he used to do a TV show in the 70s called Fernwood Tonight. It was like a fictitious late night show, right?
Yes.
And what's his name was the fake host.
Martin Mull.
Martin Mull, thank you. Yes, yeah. And the house band's name was Happy Kind and the Mirth Makers. And he was the drummer in the band. So this would have been 30-something years ago. I was having dinner with a group of people. Colin Bailey was there, and he told this story about your dad. And he said, I just think it's hilarious. He said, while they were doing that show, he went to see Buddy play in Hollywood somewhere in the 70s. Right. And he sort of knew Buddy a little bit. And he went after the show. He said, Buddy, I do this TV show called Fernwood Tonight. It's a funny show. I think you'd really enjoy it. You should come to a taping tomorrow. And he said, Buddy said, what time do you guys tape? And he said, 11 o'clock in the morning. And Buddy said, 11 o'clock? I wouldn't get up that early to see me play. It just stuck with me.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, it is. It's so...
You can hear his voice. I mean, when people quote him, you can hear his voice. It's the truth. It's so funny. I'll hear him all the time in my head. When things are going on, I'll hear him and I'll laugh or I'll be like, okay, yes, that's great. Because I hear him a lot.
Yeah, I know. And I think about it, just reminding me of all the times on the Tonight Show, the rapport with him and Johnny and the back and forth. And just even sometimes the look your dad would give him, he wouldn't even have to say anything. Johnny would be playing the pencils, kind of like, hey, dig me. And your dad would just be like, really?
My watch keeps better time.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah. My watch keeps better time. Don't quit your day job or whatever.
Exactly.
That's it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, I mean, it was just like, he was like, to me anyway, beyond his unbelievable ability on the drum set, he was just really funny to watch on those shows. It was like,
I think it stems from, I don't know if everyone knows that he grew up in vaudeville and that he started playing at the age of 2. So by the time he was 3 and 4 years old, he was on Broadway. He was starring in, the Ziegfeld Follies when he was 4 years old. So I think, you become well seasoned by the time, you're, 20 and 30 years old. He'd already been in show business for, 28 years.
Crazy.
So he was not only a dancer and a singer and an MC and a comedian, and then he had that incredible ability, on the drums.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he brought that with him. He brought that early life and all of the things that he learned, coming up, and then obviously the Dorsey band and, all Artie Shaw and all that stuff. So, he was a kid when he was in those bands. He was like 19 years old.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes. So
Yeah.
he brought all of that with him. By the time he got to Carson, I mean, take no prisoners.
Yeah, that's
Right.
probably why he wouldn't get up at 11 in the morning to go
Yes.
watch somebody play
Exactly.
on a TV
On a
show.
fake TV show.
He probably would say, I'm not doing that.
I probably
Right.
won't
Yeah.
be doing that.
He's basically like the Corey Feldman of drums. He was a child star. People don't realize just that he was that
No.
good at 4.
At 4, exactly.
I know. Yeah.
Or even,
So he was blessed with that
yeah,
God-given gift.
Yeah.
And he, like, when you were growing up, I mean, it's as the story goes, he didn't practice. Like he wouldn't be, when he got off the road, the few times probably that he was ever not on the road.
Off the road, right.
Yeah. He wasn't working on his paradiddles, out in his drum room. He was right. He was
in his drum room.
In his drum room. He was, no.
You would never have known what he did for a living, ever.
Yeah.
Not a stick, a pad. Well, he didn't believe in pads. A snare drum. The only thing we had in our home was a bass drum that had been made into a coffee table in our den. That was it. So yes, never practiced, never did. When he was off, he was off. He was sitting in a pool, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no, it's just, it was there. It was just there.
It was just there. And later as we get older, Gregg, you and I as drummers, you realize that when you play as much as he played, I mean, when you play as like every night of the week,
300 days a year.
Yeah. Then because as a kid, I remember hearing he didn't practice and I thought, how could he be that great and not practice? But of course, I mean, he started, like you said, playing when he was 2. So,
right.
By the time I became aware of him in the late 60s, early 70s, he'd been playing a long time and
a long time
and a lot. And
it never slowed down for him, even like a professional athlete, like someone will maybe watch Wayne Gretzky skate or Michael Jordan shoot a basketball. Oh, he's not as good as he was. Yeah, he doesn't do it every day anymore. Well, Buddy did it every day. You know what I mean? So he never let himself, not let himself, he just never got any less. Whereas, I mean, I've never seen that really in anybody, because anytime you watch a drummer, musician,
things do slow down eventually.
Sure.
But he didn't slow down. I was there when they were mixing that latest album, which would have been the last recording of Buddy from 1986. He passed in 87. You listen to that man's playing at in 1986, so he would have been 68 years old.
69.
Right. Listen to that man's playing. You can't decipher
he was getting better.
He was getting better, and he was just as crisp. His ideas were just as wow, I wouldn't have thought of that, or I couldn't have fit that in there. But he never had that lag, not lag time, but where things get, like you said,
and he actually said to me, that if the day came when he wasn't what he always had been, he would retire.
Oh. Well, he never
so he never, but that never happened. Unfortunately, he was taken before he had to retire.
Soon, right? Too young. Yeah.
So way too young. I mean, 69 now is 49.
I know. No, I think about that. He would have turned 70 that September. Yeah. And I think about that too. Steve Smith has often said that many, many years ago, and who studied your dad, relentlessly and religiously, had said he just got better. And I from my experience of listening to him, I mean, it's hard to say that he wasn't already unbelievable,
right.
Before,
but how do you get better from already amazing?
Yeah.
Right.
But he didn't, he absolutely never slowed down. Like you said, on an instrument that it would be sort of expected that he's going to lose some of that speed or some of that crispness, as Gregg said, like that, facility, but no, I mean, it was right. Cause I've seen some of those recordings that were not long before, we lost him, and some videos, and he's every bit as mesmerizing.
Nothing changed. It's pretty unbelievable that in that last, 6 months, he went to England, he recorded that album live at Ronnie Scott's that took us, 30 some odd years to finally get released. But if you listen to that record, you just can't believe the creativity, the musicality, that's all a given. but just he was relaxed. He was loving the band. I mean, he was recording in a place that he was his favorite place in the world to play. So it was like all of those elements came together for that recording, and you can hear it.
That's so great that you got it out there. You know, that
it took
was
forever,
made
but yes, we finally got it done.
Sounds incredible.
It sounds unbelievable.
His song selection, you know, it's not just another record of
right.
Love for
all
Sale
new,
or something. It's
you know,
just
Matt
different.
Harris, who was his piano player at the time, wrote all the charts. Matt is still with us to this day. You know, he plays with us, you know, still arranging for us. So, you know, it's great to still have alumni with the band, you know, at this, you know, juncture. It's great.
Yeah. And so are there other members still with you guys, still in the band today besides Matt?
Lots.
Yeah. Great.
When we go to New York, it's 100% alumni.
Wow.
So, and then LA, it's like 50% alumni, and, you know, everybody still wants to do it, which is a testament to him that all these years later, I mean, all of these musicians that played with him will tell you that they were kids, you know, when they got on the band, and that they became musicians when they played with him, that it was the greatest learning experience that you could ever have had as a young musician. So yes, so they are all still, you know, happy to come and play, and they sound amazing. So, you know, what better situation could we have?
That's great. Yeah. How could it not be? Like when you think about a young musician, you know,
straight out of school,
right.
Just, you know, and you didn't have to audition. He auditioned you on the gig. You came and you played. Read the book, you know, learn, you know, do sectionals, do it all, and then come and play.
Wow.
You know, you learn by doing.
Right. Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And so, and I know, Gregg, you had sent me that something, I think, or I'd seen it advertised that there's a big event happening in April. Is that still happening?
Well, you know,
due to COVID.
It's a 2 weeks. We're gonna lay low for 2 weeks. We're gonna round out that curve.
We're going to flatten the curve.
They're going to flatten
2 years ago, we were flattening the curve, weren't we?
So no, there were the COVID restrictions in Los Angeles are just. I mean, we're not knocking them.
No. And we will reschedule.
Well, it's we're rescheduling.
But because there's so many people in the band, there's 16 people in the band. Yeah. And we can't guarantee that everyone is vaccinated. Whatever.
Right. You know, it's becoming like we have to be not only band directors, but now they're expecting us to be doctors, and we can't tell adults. Or
you can't play with us.
You can't play with the guy. You know, they basically told us, if out of the 18 guys on stage, 2 of them don't have vax, you're not playing.
Right.
Well, we can't.
We can't take that kind of risk.
We can't take that, and so we have to reschedule.
So we're rescheduling.
Yes, we were going to the Whiskey A Go-Go. It'd be the first time that, you know, Buddy recorded Buddy and Soul there in 1969. We were going to go back and do the music of that album. Do the music of that album and play. Yeah. So yes, it was going to be extremely cool. Man. It will happen.
It will happen
just
later
in the future, but
probably in the summer.
In the summer, as opposed to April,
as things die down a little bit.
And they will.
They're planning on things
because we're not knocking that. We want everyone to be safe. We
want
everyone to be healthy. Of course, we don't want to, but yes, it is. It's trying to get this machine back out.
Yeah.
Anybody. I mean, talk to
everybody.
Talk to Roger Taylor from Queen. He'll tell you, we're not playing.
No one's playing. It's been 2
Ian
years.
Pace from Deep Purple. They're not going out. I mean, other people. I mean, I know
it affects everyone in the music industry.
Yeah. A lot of people are still feeling the pressure.
We'll do it again.
Yeah. But we're doing that.
No, I get it. I understand. By the way, Joe Vitale is watching.
I love him.
I love him too.
I love him.
I might love him more.
Oh, okay. I'll fight you for him.
There you go. You'll get the door slammed.
We're seeing Joe Vitale. We're doing the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp in Florida, March 10th.
And Joe Vitale will be there.
And Joe Vitale will be there with us.
Big hi to Joe.
It's always a blast.
He says, "What's up, Cathy and that drummer guy?"
See, they don't even refer to me by my name. It's Cathy's valet, or who's carrying Cathy's luggage? Yeah. Who is going to fix Cathy's hair? Who is going to, carry her garment bag through the airport?
It's Cathy and Brad.
Brad, that's it.
Brad. There you go. Boy, it's epic. I'm in Palm Springs, waiting to take Marie to Ruth Chris at 4:00. You have to eat the first sitting, or she doesn't get the right table.
Well, we know how that goes.
Too much information, but
it's true though. It's funny, but true. She did take Nick to Sizzler.
Okay, well then. Well,
that was always her thing. I took it a sizzler to Nick. Poor Nick.
We only spent $3,700 taking her to Ruth Chris 4 times, but Nick got to go to
The
Sizzler and
$12.99
get
steak
the
deal.
soft serve ice cream. That's
Sizzler.
Marie's a little different.
Well, a big hi to Joe out there.
Oh, yes,
Love Joe.
Joe
See you
Vitale.
soon, Joe.
Love Joe,
We
too.
will see you.
Yes, very soon.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Well, that's you mentioned Roger Taylor and Ian Pace.
Ian Pace.
I like to drop names of the.
I know,
the
no, and
many
of
I
our
know,
friends.
I know you had a
Yeah.
great relationship with the late great Neil Peart, who, of course, you collaborated with on many projects, and he was obviously a huge fan of your dad's, and
Neil was great. I mean, a lot of people, he was very private, so not a lot of people got to really know him, but we, we were tight. We hung out a lot, and after when that whole tragedy went on with his family, and he took off on his motorcycle for a year, he ended up at my doorstep. So
wow.
that
I don't
was
think I knew that. Yeah.
pretty amazing. Yeah, he just showed up one day on the motorcycle, pulled up to my door. He's like, "I'm here." I'm like, "Come on in." And he stayed with us for a week. Just, hung out with Nick, hung out in the drum room, was cleaning Nick's drums. I mean, it was, he was like a member of the family.
Oh, that's beautiful. Wow.
And it's funny because when we did the last memorial concert in New York in 2008, and Neil was on that show.
Mm-hmm.
And he was going to come out. I'm like, people want to see you with the big kit and come out and do like a Rush tune. We'll arrange it for the band and it'll be really cool and blah, blah, blah. He was like, yeah, let's do that. So as it got closer and closer to the show, he was less and less willing to do that. He's like, I just want to play my kit, my regular kit, my jazz kit.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, are you sure you want to do that? And he's like, I know what people say about me and how I play jazz. He said, I don't care. He said, I love that music and I'm going to play that music. And I said, you know what? He just had such an affinity for that. And he didn't care what other people said about him. And he didn't care that, maybe that wasn't his strong suit, but he made the attempt and he was gracious and he loved doing it. So how can you fault somebody for that?
Exactly.
There's so many, people that sit behind computer screens and nobody really is out there saying nice things about people. Mostly you can sit behind the screen and just tear people apart. And, that's really sad to me because there are so many great people doing great things that need to be uplifted rather than put down. Gregg has been put through it, for the 8 years that we've been doing the band.
I don't even know why.
And, it's just,
why
I'm trying to make a point here.
Why would you say anything?
But it's true. I mean,
she bought me this band and now let me play. Damn it.
But I don't know if people know that Buddy's request was to keep the band going.
And keep me away from it.
And keep the music heard and keep the musicians working and blah, 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 blah. So, when Gregg and I got together, that was like something that we just, it was an idea. Let's go into a studio. Let's see how it works. Let's see if it even is something viable. So we did that and it was. And I don't know anyone who is more dedicated to doing this job than he is. Because he does it every single day. He's in there, dedicating himself to getting better, to taking lessons, to, whatever it is. He's so dedicated to it, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for doing that. Because obviously it's the hottest drum seat there is.
Yeah, but then,
you can't sit down in that band. No. And it was never about, I'm going to create the next Buddy Rich.
No.
Right.
There is no next Buddy Rich.
Right.
Okay. There's nobody. So, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of great drummers in the world, blah, blah, blah. But the difference between Buddy and somebody imitating Buddy is that Buddy was creating as he was going. So he wasn't copying what somebody else was doing or trying to break down other people's licks and say, oh, look, I'm Buddy Rich. Anybody can do that. I could sit and do a really good imitation of Starry Nights, right? I could paint it and it looked just like Van Gogh, but it's not. I'm copying a man who was creating. So there's the difference.
Yeah.
Creating.
Well,
Creating
no,
art
that's
is
well said.
something else than plagiarizing art.
Right.
That's the difference.
Yeah. No,
So in no way, shape,
perfect.
or form do we think we're going to bring the next buddy to the table, because there isn't one.
Right. No, it's.
We
And I was
like
just going to
keep. Yeah.
Go ahead, Greg. Sorry. No, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just saying it's keeping that memory alive.
Right.
You know, I mean, once
Yeah.
this stuff goes away, it goes away. I mean, not saying that, you know, we're going to save opera, because once they stop singing opera, what movie's that from?
Bad Teacher.
Okay.
Bad
I don't
teacher,
mean that. You know what I mean? What opera? It's an art form that's going to be lost. You know, big bands will be Yeah, you know what it costs to get 18 guys on a bus?
I know.
And then
I know.
ask the alumni from Buddy Rich's band to come back? These men you have to knock the Grammy Awards out of the way, or Academy Awards, because they all play, and all the LA guys make soundtracks for every movie. So, I mean, you know what it takes to take this machine out, whatever. So yes, big bands are a tough go, whereas Buddy did do it in a time where you could do it. Diesel fuel was 13 cents a gallon, so you could sit in your bus and go play a high school and make your payroll. Nowadays, if we don't play the London Palladium, payroll's you know
iffy.
Yeah,
no, I know,
but it's true.
Yeah, it's coming out of the Knicks money.
But
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. There is no money.
Oh my God! No, but
now you see why. But no,
just spinning out.
Yeah, all we're trying, all we do is when we go
do it
out
for
with
the
this
love
band,
of doing it.
do it. No way, you know that it's just a matter of, well, especially you have that buddy. Where you saw the man, you know what it was. You're not going to replace that, you know? So there's no, but when we go and play, you are people that did see Buddy in the past.
It's true.
Oh,
but you know, just because Buddy is gone doesn't mean that his music should be put in a closet, that the band members should be forgotten, that, you know, you should never do that again. Why not? People come and they have a great experience. You know, that's the whole idea, is that you want to keep his spirit alive. You know, that's really the bottom line. We knew he went out there and he worked his butt off every day of his life. And
you know, I was going to say I exactly. And I was going to say that it's for us, you know, like we grew up at a time when, like I said earlier, like Buddy was still on this earth and you could see him on TV, you could see him in concert. And I hate to sound like, you know, like that old guy saying, get off my lawn, but,
you know,
but to your point, you got to like, if you don't keep his legacy and his memory alive, and people only can rely on drum solos on YouTube, they're not getting the full picture of Buddy. And I was going to make that point too, that like so much of I think what I won't say younger drummers, but what people that didn't experience him at the time think of Buddy as is just these unbelievable drum solos that no one's ever going to be able to play, but they're missing the musicality. They're missing like what it was like to see him play with the band and drive the band. Like the dynamics were unbelievable, where he'd get it to a whisper, like when there's a, you know, a horn solo, and then he'd bring it back up and he'd like, you know, blow through something and then bring it. I mean, it was just like, it was like a drum clinic watching a show.
Absolutely. And that's, you know, that's the point of what I was saying earlier, is that, you know, he was an artist. He was a creator. He was, you know, he spent every day of his life doing this and bringing it to people, you know. So anyone could watch a video and go, oh, I can do that. Absolutely. You know, you could sit in your basement and try to do it. And you could, if you break it down enough, you know, you could probably get close, whatever. But that does not the whole picture. The whole picture is you're creating things as you go.
In the moment. Yeah.
So it's a different thing, being an artist and, you know, and being an imitator. There's two different things. That, you know, there's a lot of tribute bands out there. You know, there's a Kiss tribute band. Does that mean that you wrote those songs and that you did all that? No, it means that you're copying or imitating.
Right.
You know, so again, that's a whole other thing. You know, and yes, there's great tribute bands out there that look and sound just like the real thing, but it's not the real thing, because the real thing created it.
And I have to think that oftentimes, and maybe I'm wrong, and you would know, you could correct me, but you know, when Buddy played those songs, if he played 6 nights at Lenny's on the Turnpike, he's not going to
Right.
play those arrangements exactly the same every night. And certainly not like the drum solos. I saw him enough times to see, sometimes he'd play a drum solo where he'd, it was a treat to see him do like spend a lot of time playing just the cymbals. If you remember, I'm sure you remember, because
the greatest.
And I was never disappointed, but I remember seeing him do a solo, one time at a show, and he didn't spend as much time. Like, I wish he did that thing on the cymbals, but it was still, but it was still ridiculous. Yeah.
Here's another interesting thing is that when Neil Peart would tell me that they were rehearsing for their tour, he would say to me, I'm rehearsing my solo for the tour. And I would say to him, what do you mean you're rehearsing your solo for the tour? You play the same exact solo every night? And he's like, yeah, because we have lights and videos and things. I'm like, how can you do that? It's a different audience every night. It's a different room every night. The vibe is different every night. But no, it was the same solo every night for that tour.
Yeah.
So Buddy was exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
He would play something completely different every night.
Buddy's painting he's doing
different.
like a masterpiece every night.
Right.
He's giving you the Mona Lisa every night.
Every night.
Every night.
Right. And if he just did a solo on
night.
his cymbals, you were like, it kept
he would
your
just
attention.
do a cymbal on the rims, or he would do a cymbal just, on the snare
underneath,
drum. I mean, underneath everything.
It was unbelievable. It was like, it was, There was,
so that's the difference between creating art and other things.
And that's why his audience it didn't all have to necessarily be drummers. Buddy was the kind of guy you'd go like, I don't know. Did you say your friend was a drummer? Oh yeah, he's a syncopated. He wanted the book. But I'm saying, no, but I remember going like to see Buddy like with my brother who wasn't a drummer, and like other friends that weren't drummers.
Right.
And they'd be like, we got to go with Gregg to go see. And then by the end of it, you're like,
what the hell did I just see?
I'm the biggest Buddy Rich fan ever, And you don't really see that now. Like we're,
no, you don't.
There's a famous article in, I think it was Esquire, that Al Pacino wrote. One night he went to see Frank Sinatra, and Buddy and Frank were on tour together. Mm-hmm. So long story short, he said he was going in. He's like, I have to sit through, a drummer, blah, blah, blah. And he goes on to say, I have never in my life, again, art, witnessed something like this. He said, I walked out of there. He said, I could have left after Buddy did the solo. He said, I no longer was interested in seeing Frank Sinatra. I had just seen the greatest creation of my life. So it's crazy. You go in expecting one thing and you come away with a completely different, outlook.
Yeah. I mean, with all respect, Frank was the greatest at what he did. But I would hate to have to follow your dad. I'm sorry. I don't care if you're Frank Sinatra, like in terms of like the energy and
you've already
intensity.
got the audience right here, right?
And
so you're going to come out and sing "Luck Be a Lady," and it's going to be okay.
But you just made me think of something too. Like Gregg, what you were saying, like as a kid growing up in the '60s, we all grew up, knowing the Beatles, and the Beatles like got so many of us to like want to play the drums, Ringo. Sure. But I remember at a point when I got serious about it, like in the early 1970s, if you mentioned to anybody like that you were a drummer, I'm giving away my age here, but it was always invariably, it was like, someone would mention Buddy Rich. Like my dad would say, I'd say, yeah, Dad, Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stones. He's like, well, Buddy Rich is he's the greatest. I mean, everybody knows that. Like, and to Gregg's point, like you didn't have to be a drummer. You didn't. You just be like, but you do realize, I know this guy's your favorite drummer in this rock band, but you realize that like Buddy is the greatest.
This guy will, and which is why, when the band, like in the 70s, Bill Graham, who was notorious for, putting rock acts on and owning the Fillmores in San Francisco and New York, always put Buddy on with rock bands. So it was like to let that audience hear where all this other stuff comes from, So he would put him on with like the craziest, and he would stand on this. I remember one night, 10 years after we're playing, and it was Buddy and 10 years after. And Rick Lee was the drummer in 10 years after. Yeah. And I remember standing on the side of Bill Graham. I was like, 12 years old. And him saying, Rick Lee, watch, and telling Rick Lee, watch this, right? And Rick already knew. But for some reason, Bill Graham and Rick Lee did not see eye to eye. So he would purposely
like
put
shove
Buddy
it in his
on
face, like,
and shove it in his
like
face.
watch this guy, watch this guy, and then this poor long hair standing
This
next
poor
to him
kid's
like,
back there going, "What did I do?"
yeah, I was gonna drum battle Ginger Baker
And
after
then Buddy
this,
would just
man.
annihilate the crowd
my
of like
God, yeah.
hippies with the light show going. Everyone's on acid and like, whatever. And the crowd would just be like out of their mind. And how do you follow that?
I know.
Right?
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's too fun. Bill Graham just totally psyching out Rick, just kind of going like,
Psyching out,
check him
anyone he
out.
put on, put the band on with The Who, put him on with Led Zeppelin, put him on with all these bands. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And that audience accepted it because it was something otherworldly.
All those drummers, we were what was I? We were doing that. I was doing the that Bonzo Bash thing that they had during NAMM. And we met Bill Ward from Black Sabbath.
Oh, great. Yeah.
And he was
such a lovely man.
Yeah, wonderful one. But we did. I mean, I didn't know it even that like he and Bonzo were buddies. I mean, imagine that. Like you're growing up in England. I've got a band called Led Zeppelin. I got one called Black Sabbath. We're inventing it. But whatever.
Right.
So they're friends.
Exactly.
And he's like, we used to rehearse at the same. Where did they rehearse? Like in a barn or something,
right.
Whatever though. He said that they would put a snare drum, him and Bonzo, they'd get whatever the latest Buddy Rich album was.
Yeah.
Put it on, and then they'd both sit and try
with snare drums and try to, put it back, listen again. Here's what he's doing. Here's what he's doing.
And then he walked back in another room and did When the Levee Breaks or something. But it's like, imagine these two men that are, the other guy's doing, the other guy's recording Fairies Wear Boots, but they're listening to Love for Sale going,
how does he do that?
How does he do that? Because you didn't have video or anything. You had this album and you're like,
Dave Weckl said that when he was a kid, he used to, try to pick out the licks, by putting the record.
That's what you had to do back then. Yeah.
Right. And but when you think of John Bonham and Bill, Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin, these two men with us, well, they would have been kids, whatever, with a snare drum. And
I made Buddy go see Led Zeppelin.
I heard that story. Yeah. Yeah.
You knew
that was crazy.
At Madison Square Garden, right?
Yeah. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was, because that was like my favorite band in the world. And, Buddy, good-hearted, I'll take you.
Being a great dad. Yeah. Yeah.
Being a great dad, I was a kid. Yeah. And so we had like third row center. And that was literally the loudest band you'd ever heard in your life.
Oh, gosh.
So you're sitting right by it all. Right.
Yeah.
And he was cool. I mean, the whole time he was, just kind of, maybe not into it as much as I was, but was sitting there until the drum solo.
The hands. Bonzo playing the snare drum with his hands.
And then they lit the cymbals on fire, or the kick drum on fire, and the Zulu guy comes out with the flames, and the dancer, the guy is... That was it.
That's when he
just turned and looked at me and stared at me like for the rest of the show.
You can't blame him.
People kept coming up to him.
Did you come to see Bonzo?
He's like, yeah.
That's who I'm here to see.
That's who I'm here to see.
Oh, my God. Oh, God bless him. He was a good sport. He was really good sport.
He took me to everything. I mean, he literally took me to see anybody I wanted to see. And, that's what you do when you're a dad. You take your kid to go do the things that, you may not have any interest in, but you'll go.
Yeah. And it's
until Cathy made him go see Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Then things got a little tougher. That's when, wait a second now.
Okay.
But he was friendly. Were him and Carl friendly, though? Were they him and, no? Okay, you don't have to answer.
I was actually
Carl's still alive, so watch what you say.
I would never say anything bad about Carl.
He's still alive.
I've known Carl since I was 11 years old.
He's a great guy. He's a great guy.
He was with Chris Farlow and the Thunderbirds when I met him.
Wow.
So,
okay.
So, I mean, he was only he was probably 18 years old and, whatever. Yeah. But he used to come when the second tour that Buddy went to England. Carl kept getting thrown out of our hotel because he kept he was this long-haired, greasy-looking kid who was coming into the lobby waiting to see Buddy Rich.
I'll bet.
And they kept tossing him out. So finally, we happened to have come downstairs as they were putting their hands on him again to throw him out. And Buddy's like, okay, just leave him alone. It's fine, right? So he let him sit and, say his piece and whatever it was. And Buddy said, come back tomorrow. We're on our way out to dinner. come back tomorrow. I'll let them know that you're my guest. This is, buddy, and these are the stories that most people
That's
don't know
cool.
about him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll let the desk know that you're my guest and come in and come up to the suite and we'll talk. And he did, and they did. And that
Yeah.
was, the beginning of that friendship. And
That's
so we've been
really cool.
friends this whole time.
Yeah, I thought so. I mean, I know he's a massive fan of your
Oh,
dad.
yeah.
I mean, you can
And,
see it in his
Carl's
playing.
great.
And yeah, he's
Absolutely.
a heck of a
So
drummer.
I got to be in on the ground floor of all of, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, when they were rehearsing to first, do the first album and first go out. It was pretty cool.
Well, I'm recalling back to like what you're saying reminds me of me being lucky enough to be on the inside with you on the memorial concerts. And, people don't realize the first one was actually in Long Island, Westbury.
Right.
I was at that one.
Yep.
But I didn't meet you until the second one. I'd only started at Zildjian in like May of '89. So when we did the one in October at the Wiltern. Yeah.
Yes.
And just for people watching, I just remember Louis was still with us. Louis Belson, rest his soul.
Oh, yeah.
The kindest man in the world. I mean,
the greatest.
The greatest. And I'm all these drummers, Louis and Vinny and Steve Gadd and Dave Weckl and Gregg Bissonette and Dennis. Everybody held your dad at the highest. I mean, it was such an honor to be on that show because they were able to pay tribute to your dad. I mean, there aren't a lot of drummers that you could kind of name that everyone would feel that level of like, it's how important it was to be there.
Right.
Right.
No, but all of those, I mean, that show was, I remember going into Armin's office at NAMM.
Yeah.
And, Armin had a way with words.
Yeah.
As we know, right? Yes. He talked to you like that. Cathy. So I went into the room and we were talking and he's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. I don't want any other cymbal companies involved. All Zildjian artists. And I was like, okay, whatever. Let's just do it. So he was like, we're good. Whatever you need, whatever you want, we're doing it. And we did. And that, that stands as probably the greatest show ever for drums.
Ever. Yeah.
Because everybody was so on. Nobody had really heard of Dennis yet. Dennis was just kind of coming up in New York. And, he was like out of his mind. I mean, to this day, he tells me that made his career doing that show.
Yeah. I would think so. I mean, I just remember, working at Zildjian at that time, what the impact of that show, what it had on him, like people wanting him for drum clinics after that.
Yes.
They saw him on that show. They, like you said, most people didn't know who he was, but they went,
nope.
What about that guy that played with Gregg and Louis? Yeah. I want that guy. Yeah.
Exactly.
But I was also going to say, that was just a kudos to Rob Wallace and Paul Siegel for recording it, and for you too. I mean, to have the foresight to get it documented, because
you had to, because we didn't get to shoot the one in Westbury.
Yeah.
So we said, if we're going to do this again, this has got to be documented.
Yeah.
And Rob and Paul were so great. They shot many of those memorial concerts. And, still all friends to this day, which is, wonderful. Love those guys.
Yeah.
And, it's really been kind of a love affair with everyone as they've come along. I'm still friends with all of those people. So, it's a great thing to be able to have had that, and have that history with everybody. Dave was a young guy just starting out. Vinny, all of these people.
I know.
This was like the time.
I know. And, and Dave makes no bones about the fact that your dad was such a huge influence on him too. I mean, you can certainly, back at that time, you could really see it in his playing, the level of like Buddy and his.
We were just talking about this, yesterday, is that I think, for my money, and Gregg said it too, Dave is probably the closest thing, to Buddy. Because of his creativity and because of his musicality and just the way he approaches the instrument and approaches his music. Dave is light years, He's unbelievable,
Yeah,
and
he really
we've had
is.
the
He's got
pleasure
that.
of having him come and play with
Oh
us.
yeah, he
Played
played
with us at Ronnie Scott's.
Scott's.
We did a
Yeah.
week at Ronnie's, and Dave was our special guest, and he's played. He's done quite a bit. With the band, and I always tell him, I'm like, you just get it. He just gets it.
Really, he's
And
really
again,
good.
an artist who creates. He doesn't try to be Buddy. He brings
No.
Dave Weckl to the gig.
Yeah.
And plays the music his way.
Right.
It's not like, oh, I'm going to do the Phil from Love for Sale, and it's going to be just like Buddy. No,
right.
He does it just like Dave, which is exactly how it should be.
But it's kind of, I'm sure in his mind, it's cool that he can do it his way, but he can pay tribute to his hero, which has got to be like
absolutely
win-win all the way around,
all the way around. And it's never been about, well, I'm going to do it just like he did it. No, he's an artist. He creates.
Yeah. Well, guys, this is great. This has been, we're kind of, over
we're winding down.
We're
the old
winding
clock
down
on the wall.
Yeah.
Well, next time we're going to come to your drum room and we're going to play those drums.
We're going to play those drums.
Yes.
I'll play a tambourine.
Because
I promise I'll play them really badly. And
Well,
I won't disappoint you.
One of the problems I've noticed just from looking at them, you set them up wrong. They're set up all backwards.
I'm inflicted with this thing called left-handedness that has always been a deterrent.
You're really, really intelligent.
We thought you were going to have Ian Pace show up later, or Rod Morgenstein.
Can you make that happen? I know Rod. I don't know Ian though. Yeah, bring Ian Pace.
You have got to have Ian.
You can have Ian with love.
He's the greatest.
Yes,
I love him.
Absolutely the greatest person. I mean, he's come out for all the time, and the things that we put him through in dressing rooms, and making him take crazy pictures,
crazy
and
photos.
videos.
We make this.
Oh my god!
The replication of Armin and Armin and Buddy, with the pendant.
Did you see that?
Yes.
Any crazy thing we asked him to do, he says yes.
I couldn't believe it, Gregg. I said, I'm thinking to myself, he got him to do that. He's just
yes. I mean, because her and I
just
think
this much of the things.
Right. And if anybody speaks with an English accent, we make them think it's like James Bond.
Right.
I mean, and here's the Ian Pace. This man's like,
legend.
Yeah, I don't have to do this.
I know.
I play Smoke on the Water. I play the hi-hat. That's all I have to do.
That's all I have to do.
No, but could you try this and then come in the back and do you see he's holding his drumstick like a cigarette because Armand's holding a cigarette?
Right.
Yes.
Buddy's holding a cigarette, right.
And I think that started because they had those little Coke bottles in the dressing room at Ronnie Scott's. So that's how
started
we
from
thought
there.
of it. We thought of like we could
hilarious.
recreate that picture and but
that's what you did that at Ronnie Scott's. That picture.
We did that
in the
dressing room of Ronnie Scott's.
Oh, that's I love. I meant to tell you that. Yeah, I met him. I met him at an MD Fest when he played a million years ago when him and Chad Smith did something together.
Right.
Had to be 20, but I just shook his hand and said, you don't know me, but I'm just a huge, I think I said, I'm a lefty too. And he was thinking like, yeah, big deal.
So what?
So what? Yeah. Like that's
so
like he's going to take me.
So's Phil Collins.
He's going to take you under his wing now.
Come with me, young man.
My boy.
Yeah.
He's the best. You have to meet him. The next time we do something with him, you got to come.
No, we will.
Right.
Then we'll next time we talk to him, if you
tell
want
him to be a guest.
I'll have him.
Yeah, I would.
We'll have him set
please,
this up
I would so love that. Yeah.
I'll write to him and tell him.
I promise not to stalk him. I really have. I've got a no stalking policy here. I promise you.
Okay. You have to sign the NDA.
You have to sign the release form.
Right. It's
guys,
so great to be with you and see you again. I'm telling you, it's been so long.
Yes, thank you.
Too long. We miss you.
Miss you too, Cathy.
How's Kelly?
Yes,
she's great, by the way. I tried to get her to come and make a cameo, but she won't do it.
Send her my love, please.
I
hope we get to see both of you soon.
Me too. Yeah, I hope so too.
Definitely. Too long.
Brad, did you have some final words?
Okay, so it goes from I was going to introduce you to Ian Pace. Forget it now. I won't even forget it.
It's over.
I'll get you the drummer from the Cult or something. I'll get you John Densmore or something.
I love John Densmore.
I love John Densmore.
Yeah.
Okay,
John
I'm thinking of
John
other Ians.
There you go.
Oh, you got a lot of them. Okay, I'll get you that guy.
That guy.
No, how am I going to fill in? What last words can I have?
What final words?
What kind of final words are you going to
get?
get brilliance out of me that you're not going to trim out in editing? Oh yeah, Gregg. Well, yeah, that was nice hearing from you. Bye bye. No, everything was, no, thank you so much for having us. And yes, this was much better than that. What do we get at those NAMM shows? We used to get like
2
3
minutes.
You know, before someone comes, John, I got to talk to you.
Right.
John, you won't believe what I've got. I've got the best up and coming drummer. This guy, oh, this is Gregg Potter. Yeah, what is he now? 75? Yeah, I got a kid young. And you got to see him, John. Could you two? And who's the beautiful lady with him? Miley Cyrus? No, that's Charlize Theron. Okay, John, could we take you for a minute? John,
my cheeks are hurting.
John, come.
Oh my God.
John.
So that's exactly what it was like.
That's what it was like.
Perfect.
At the NAMM
well,
show.
you guys know. Can I take you for a minute? Yeah. And then
exactly.
Yeah, I know.
That's all you get. You get 60 seconds.
But it was the best 60 seconds. I mean, it's always great talking to you.
Yes,
always
always.
great.
Likewise,
always
you guys.
Great. You've always.
I missed you guys, and it's been such a pleasure doing this today, having you guys here today.
Thank you. It's our pleasure to
But we're going to do it live at your house.
We'll do it live at your house.
And we're going to come play on those drums.
Okay, it's a deal.
All right.
That'll
do it.
Guys,
awesome.
sit tight. I'll end the stream, and then we'll say goodbye in the dressing room. Don't eat all the peanut M&Ms till I get there.
Thank you.
Everybody, thank you so much for watching today. A big hand for Cathy Rich and Gregg Potter.
Thank you.
Oh, love you guys. Sit tight for 1 minute.
Round of applause.
Okay.
We will.
Okay, bye-bye.
See you in a sec.